Alrighty. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics Less Known Classics. This is episode number 1696 in Doubleshot number 1590. I have two Batman trades. First one is from 11 years ago. Well, issues that came out 11 years ago. We have Gotham City Sirens, Book 2. Now, not done by Paul Dini. Paul Dini does not do any of the issues in this book. It's mostly Tony Bedard and Paul Calloway, who does the issues, does the writing. The artwork, the cover artwork, is done by Gilliam March, who was the artist of the Catwoman that came after this one, which I'll get to more in that in a minute. The artwork is done by Andres Galido, Lorenzo Ruggiero, Weldon Wong, Jeremy Hahn, Ramon Bosch, and Raul Fernandez. Yes. Now, 22 I'm not going to discuss in here because that's part of the Judgment Gotham crossover, which I've discussed it already. Excuse me. A lot of these issues are simply a lot of standalone and some loosely connected stuff. Like, there's one story in here involving Poison Ivy going crazy and trying to attack her friends over a creature she made up a thing for. There's a brief appearance in here by Batman a couple times in here. First, I think it's supposed to be the Bruce Wayne Batman. Talia pops up in here briefly for like one issue. Okay. I mean, the best way to describe Gotham City Sirens, it's a series with a series of stories. Basically, your one-shot stories or occasional two-parter here and there. Yep. And we kind of get to that tread here. Now, Tony Bedard does not do all the issues of this series. Oh, no. Yeah, for some reason, for 26 issues for this series, and this something that's completely baffling to me. Where you went through this many writers. You have Tony Bedard issues 12 and 15, and then basically the remainder of the book, it's Peter Calloway. Yeah, and that's it. Yep, and the interior artwork for these issues is mostly done by, well, the artist just named. Mostly the artist is Andreas Galuda, who does most of the book's artwork in here. Mm-hmm. Yep. But this is actually just pretty fun of a book to read. And aside from basically seeing, well, the 3 stars of the series, Harley Quinn, Catwoman, and Poison Ivy, I mean, you don't really have any major supporting characters in this book. It's just basically these two just having fun for all these issues. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Yep. Now, what happened to these characters right after this series? Because they all go their separate ways. Where do they go to, you might ask? Catwoman got a solo book, Harley Quinn with the Suicide Squad, and Poison Ivy went to the Birds of Prey, where she was on the book for 12 issues and then she left. Harley Quinn, on the other hand, stayed with the Suicide Squad for 10 years. From 2011 to 2020, she was on the group. She also got another spin-off book, which has had 3 volumes. First launched in 2013, relaunched in 2016, and then and then relaunched again just last year. So roughly 3 volumes of a series in just 7 years. Poison Ivy, of course, she also had a team-up book with Poison Ivy. It took place at the Heroes in Crisis. And that was it for her. But this series is purely fun, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Yeah, and that's another Batman book done. Now, moving on, we're jumping ahead 10 years later with Batman Detective Comics, Volume 1, The Neighborhood. Written by a brand new writer in the book, Marco Tamakagi, who actually is, I believe, the first female writer to write to write this series. Because if you look at pretty much any writer who wrote this book previously, over the course of this book's, 80 years this book is published, actually more like probably about 82 years, it's always been guys. Every single time it's always been guys. Hardly any point in this book's history where this book is written by a woman. And this one book is quite interesting. It's basically mostly like the book said, it's Detective Comics. And of course, Mark Tamaka does basically explain in the back thing of it afterward Or is she basically just doing some more fun stuff with Batman? Yes, it's basically still referencing stuff happened in Joker War. We have a new mayor of Gotham City. This, of course, comes as part of the relaunch after Future State. Yes, Future State of all things. Now, the book wasn't restarted. Now, what issues does this book cover? Issues 1034 to 1039. Yep, that's what pretty much... Now, you mostly have Batman being accused. Yeah, basically Bruce Wayne knows a woman named Sally Worth who was actually murdered in the start of this run. And then also Bruce Wayne is living in a townhouse. That was something that was mentioned because he doesn't have the Batcave anymore. There is the Alpha Cave, or they say Metro Cave, basically a mini Batcave in Gotham City. He's in a private neighborhood, but he's still rich, but not as rich as he once was before. That's simply what the premise basically of Batman is currently right now. And basically Sally Ward becomes the new Lady Clayface. You're thinking, really? Yes, Lady Clayface. That's what she calls herself. Like, I was kind of surprised about that. Oh yeah, definitely. I did not expect to see her again anytime soon. Yeah, I never expect to see her again. It's by far a really interesting idea. Though, yes, of course, this wasn't necessarily the first appearance of this character in post-Flashpoint. No, not really per se. Though it was definitely an interesting idea. Yeah, it was definitely a very interesting idea when it comes to DC Comics. Yeah, the bring of all people, Lady Clayface. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, she previously appeared on the pages of Doomsday Clock. Yep, but her first appearance was pages of Batgirl, the most recent one for the book. Yep, that's where she first showed up, in Batgirl of all places. Yep. She first showed up there, she was in Gotham City Monsters for that entire run, a few issues of Doomsday Clock, and now this book here. She's here for these few issues, and then she comes back for one more issue after that, and that's simply it for her. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was also the first time Batman's ever met Lady Clayface in this continuity. Yeah, it's interesting to know that she first meets Batgirl first, then meets up with, of course, well, Batman. Huntress is in here too, though she's got a haircut since her last appearance in the pages of Hellblazer. Yes, Hellblazer. They've included in here the Huntress stories in here, which I thought that was really nice on the part of DC to do this. Yeah, the fact they included her basically her backup feature for the book. Yeah, and apparently, and this is kind of unofficial, mostly put, if you look at this book, Huntress has kind of become a supporting character in the pages of the Detective Comics of all things. Yeah, I never suspected her doing that, but that's pretty much how it is. And this book does contain all the backup stories in here, which I found to be quite interesting. I did not suspect him doing that. No, not really. Yeah, there's even a Penguin story in here. Yes, a Penguin story. Plus, I love the covers they chose for this particular run. Yes, as you can tell, it's from what I can tell, it's still the same logo they used for Tomasi's run. There's not really much change there. Dan Moore does the cover art work here. But as for who murdered Sally, it's suspected it was Bruce Wayne because, well, Spectre House, and here's her father, Mr. Worth. Yeah, who wants to beat the crap out of Bruce Wayne for apparently killing his daughter, even though there's no evidence to support that. Nope. Also, for some reason, the artist gave her a slightly new costume. Yeah, it's from look at the costume, it mostly resembles a little bit of the pre-Flashpoint costume, the one she had just prior to Flashpoint, which I kind of like that costume for her. They don't have the headdress thing that she had before, but mostly it's a redesign. It's a slight redesign of that because shows off her midriff. Yep, shows off her belly, which she did before. I guess now it's okay for her to do that, despite the fact she did before. Yep. Yeah, and also she apparently she got herself a haircut since her time in the pages of Birds of Prey. Yep. Yeah, prior to this book, like her last non-official appearance prior to this, let's see, I don't think it was it was not the most recent one for Nightwing. I don't think it was. I'm just checking something here, just to be sure. Yeah, her most recent appearance was actually in pages of... Well, she did appear toward the end of Tom King's run for Batman. Yep, that was her most recent appearance prior to that, prior to this period, this book here. And that was back in 2020. So, actually it was back in 2019. So, it had been 2 years since her last appearance. Though she did also appear in Infinite Frontier for her story, which they don't have in this book. No, they don't. They don't have her story in here. I mean, you think they might include it in here, but no, not really. I think maybe they included in like the pages of like the first trade. I think it was included in the first trade of Batman for James Tynion's run. Yep. But this book is really, really good. I thoroughly enjoy this. In my opinion, this is one of the best books DC's putting out right now. Is this book right here? Marco Tamaki does an absolute great job of the book. The backup stories in here are quite interesting. I'm going to give this book a shocking 10 out of 10. It was actually really good. Though the very next thing for this book to come out with is, I believe it's Fear State. Excuse me. I think Fear State came next. No, not really. They include the next issue in here. Yeah. My guess is they probably include it when they do the next trade. Yeah, they included... Oh, by the way, the person who actually killed the daughter of Mr. Worth was actually a guy named Vile. Yeah. It was... I think it was like Henry Vile, his name is. Who Vile? Yeah, he was the one who practically killed... well, he's pretty much the one who actually killed Mr. Worth's daughter. Yep. Though, the Penguin story that they have in this book does feature appearance by Orphan Spoiler, who are operating as Batgirls. The whole point of probably that story is just to set up the current Batgirls book currently published right now. That's probably the whole purpose of that. Which, fine. Though I have heard lately that apparently DC Comics is not selling too well financially for the books. Yeah, apparently, I've been noticing this. Apparently, like, some books basically have backup stories are not like $2.99, about $3.99. Some books are like basically about $5 a month. This book, I don't think so. I think Urban Legends is like $5 a month for that one. This one, I don't think it is. I think it's still $3.99, but I love the backup stories in this book. It's just so freaking good. And Marco, she does not do all the stories in here. Yeah, she's one of the writers in here. Yeah, the other ones are by John Riley, Megan Fritz Martin, and T-Rex. Yes, there's a writer named T-Rex. Dan Moore does the cover art, which is really good. Victor Banovic, Clayton Henry, Carl Mazzart, Dustin Negan, and of course T-Rex again. Yep. And I personally can't get my hands on the second trade. I mean, the way that the back of the trade feels, it reminds me a lot of the the trades they used to have pre-Flashpoint, the style of which I like the style. I really do. I miss this. And you probably would think I would have basically not bothered to get the trades that are not done by Tomasi. No, not really. Actually, I decided to get this purely because I like this run for the comic, just like I did Tomasi's run, and it was next year to come out. Yes. Though you mostly call this one Batman to the Comics by Mark Tamakagi Volume 1, because you can't exactly have a Volume 1 for Batman to the Comics because there's too many of them. Yes, for some strange reason, I do not know why, they said have it where this book basically, well, has to have its relaunch of its numbering. This is the second time since the return of the triple-digit numbering they've had to restart the numbering of the graphic novels. Do not know why. Also, here's a fun fact for you. 1038, that's actually the 100th issue of Titanic Comics since return of the digital numbering. Because I believe the first issue was like 939, I believe it was. Yeah, I think it was like 939. Was it? No, I think it was a little bit further than that. I'm checking just to be sure about this. Okay, it was actually 934. So basically the first issue of... So it was issue 1033. That was the 100th issue of the Return to Triple-Digit Numbering. So now we're like 100 and... With this book, you're like 106 issues. Like basically 107 issues in right now. If you're curious though, how many issues published currently? Because here's the strange thing about the current book right now. Starting with, I think it was with 1047, I think it was. Yeah, 1047. Yes, for some reason, I have no idea why. It's mostly for a story arc known as The Tower. It's known as the show's The Bat story arc, which is basically features two stories, House of Gotham and The Tower. It is simply put become a weekly book. Yep, a weekly book. And it's from what I heard, it's going to be a 12-parter. Oh yeah, it is. It's going to start. It starts with issue 1047, and it's probably going to wrap up with issue 1058. But yeah, they even had this period of time 1050 come out. Yep. Which that's awesome. The fact that Detective Comics reached that far. So yeah, I guess Detective Comics is back to being surpassing Action Comics again. It's possible. Yeah, and there has been an annual release. It's probably collected in the second book as well. They're probably collected in the next volume, or probably 2 volumes of this one, I'm not sure. Because the annual mostly just serves as a relaunch. It's basically a prelude to the current story they have published right now. I do not know what's going to be in the second volume for this one. Let's find out. Because I know it's basically going to be the Fear State book. Yeah, and it's supposed to come out in July. Yes, July. And this book is going to contain 7 issues. Yes, 7. Unlike this book, which was 6. Yep, 6 read issues. But as of currently, this book is one of my personal favorites for DC right now. And I hope it's still to be published right now. Hopefully, it does not get canceled anytime soon. There was a rumor. I heard. Here's the fun little story for you before I end this. Did you know DC was actually considering canceling the comics back in the late 70s? Yeah, they actually were considering it, and because the reason why was because Batman Family was outselling this. So what they did is they canceled Batman Family and made Detective Comics like a double-sized issue, basically moving the story of Batman Family over to this book, and that's why the book is still publishing now. And my only guess is the reason why that Detective Comics is weekly now for this story arc is because Action Comics at one point was weekly, so I guess DC probably felt this though, okay, let's make Titty Comics Weekly. Yep. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to whenever they decide to, well, acknowledge. Well, I'm also personally very happy with the fact that, well, Titty Comics has reached this far, and I hope it doesn't end anytime soon. Now, as far as I can tell, this run's been going on now for almost a year. Yeah, it's been going on for like a year. And you're thinking, a year? And they put out, in a period of 1 year for this book, this run is supposed to be going on now for 20 issues. The reason for it comes out twice a month, and currently it's like weekly. So we're going to have a lot of issues for this run. Oh yeah, you think it was longer than Tomasi's run? Possibly, yes. It's probably going to be long. At this rate, it's probably going to be longer than that run. Yep. But yeah, that's it with Stick Review. Next one's going to be How Realistic We Built the Kingdom. Okay, next video. Bye.